So we ready to start? There's no one here to introduce me. I'm going to have Jesse Piles do it. Well, I got to tell you, Jesse Piles is. He's Sustainability Coordinator at Unity College.
That's right.
All right. So introduce me, man.
And now that she's introduced me, I'm pleased and honored to introduce my former president at Unity College, President Emeritus Mitchell Thomashow, who's now leading the Second Nature's Presidential Fellows Program. So make sure that he knows all the stuff you need from your president at your institution, and be looking for more from him. He's going to give a talk to you that I've heard way too many times about the 9 elements of a sustainable culture, and I'm hoping to pick up some new tips from it. So here's Mitchell Thomashow.
All right, thanks for that. You know, they're recording it, but they don't have to record this part, so I can't roam, I have to be in front of the microphone. I usually love to do introductions, but oh man, I don't think we can. There's too many of you here. So how many of you are sustainability coordinators of one kind or another? Raise your hand. That's a lot. How many of you are faculty? Are any of you faculty and sustainability coordinators? Boy, that's a tough one. Any senior administrators here? Okay, students? CFOs? No? Facilities people? Did I forget anybody?
Librarian.
Oh, what?
Librarian.
A librarian. And you're the sustainability librarian, right?
Almost.
All right. And you are? Sustainability librarian. All right. Anything else I forget? You're a librarian too. All right, that's great. Okay, how many from New England? Raise your hand. Anybody from New Hampshire? Any New Hampshire people? Live free to die? No? How many from Mid-Atlantic? Raise your hands. Southeast? Midwest? North, upper Midwest. Upper Midwest. Sort of lower Midwest, wherever that is. Lower Midwest. Right? Rocky Mountain states. All right. Pacific Northwest. Southwest. Canada. Elsewhere in the world. Where are you from, sir? Germany. Germany. Anybody else from elsewhere? Yeah? Where are you from?
India.
India. And that's where you raise your hand? Mexico. Okay. You got a good representation there. All right, so now they're recording it. I'll get back here. Which, how's that? Whoa, okay. Little reverb. I have been doing this for a long time now. I'm 61 years old, and I come out of the late 1960s. When people ask me what my field is, I say I'm a child of the interdisciplinary 60s. But what's become clear to me in the last 5 years is that our orientation towards sustainability, the sustainability movement, has taken off in a way that's just incredible. I haven't seen anything like this since the movements of the 1960s. This is a way for us to transform absolutely everything that we do. So I became the college president for one reason only. I wanted to see if we could transform a campus in a remote regional part of Maine, a campus that really didn't have much money, a tiny endowment, and almost all the tuition came from, all the revenue came from student tuition. Because I wanted to see if, as an experiment, we could transform that campus and make it an exemplary sustainability college. And there's still a lot of work to do at Unity College, but we went a long way. Because I was tired of hearing excuses from all kinds of people. Oh, we can't do it, the climate's too cold. Well, Maine's pretty darn cold. I think where we are in Maine is the lowest possible amount of sunshine of any other place other than the Pacific Northwest. Or we just don't have any money here. So I said, okay, let's see what we can do. And that was part of the orientation. And that's behind this experience. I'm not going to tell you about the Unity experience, but I'm trying to bring this together into the whole collective experience. So get ready for the 9 elements. Let's remember one thing, and we have to remember this all the time. And you have to say this until you're blue in the face and people are sick of you. Sustainability is a response to a planetary emergency. I was calculating as a college president the hundreds of meetings I would have during the course of a year. You know, whether it was annual reports, whether it was convocations, graduations, you name it, there were hundreds and hundreds of meetings. I would frame almost every single meeting by reminding people of why we're doing this, what sustainability is all about. And most people don't understand the specifics of the planetary emergency, the 6th mega extinction, plunging declines in biodiversity, And I talk about the rapidly changing climatic and oceanic circulation because it's not just about climate change, but it's about ocean acidification. These are very complex, very important challenges. Sustainability is our response to this so we can improve the planetary condition for humans and all the species. It's important to, what is this? Just says rapidly there. The whole thing didn't get on there. Oh, well. So I guess the first few times I do the slideshow, that can be charming, but after that, it's kind of stupid. You know, the consensus of international peer-reviewed science is clear, and what's so discouraging right now is how science is under attack. So we have to be there to help folks understand that science is an important part of sustainability. And as you know, all the peer-reviewed science on these issues that I just mentioned is very, very clear. So I'm setting a context for this 9 elements talk. And we have to keep this context in mind all the time. Sustainability requires that we think about the whole Earth as an ecological and economic system. Okay, so here's my story. I was in college at NYU in the late 1960s, and there was no internet then. So I used to take the subway down to the 8th Street bookstore when there were independent bookstores, and the Barnes & Noble was a small chain in Manhattan at the time, and it wasn't a good store. It's really not now either, but it was really not a good store then. But there was the 8th Street bookstore, and I used to go down every week because I wanted to see all the new books that were coming out on the civil rights movement, on Vietnam, on all of these incredible things that were happening and I'm 19 years old in 1969. So my mind is just able to take all of this in, and it was a very exciting time, and there was all this new literature coming out. But one day, I walked into the 8th Street bookstore, and I saw that oversized book. How many people remember that? All right, awesome. And I saw the Whole Earth catalog. And to use the language of the time, like, wow, what's that? And I opened it up, and it reminded me of the things to do books I used to have as a child that would have follow the dots and coloring things. It was set up like that. And this was the days when you didn't have these nonlinear, asymmetrical kinds of layouts. Now it's taken for granted that that's how we look at things. So this book had a tremendous impact on me with the Earth on the cover, and inside it was really a recipe for sustainability all those years ago. And I realize in retrospect that my entire career has been an attempt to fulfill the mission of this Whole Earth catalog through higher education in all aspects of my life. So this all goes way back. The important thing is that we always reiterate that sustainability represents not only ecological challenge, but an economic challenge. And that a sustainable approach to economic decisions encourages, guess what? Frugality. Guess what? Debt reduction. Not only economic debt, but debt to the planet. Living within our means, protecting future generations, conserving natural resources. These are fundamentally conservative principles by any stretch of the imagination. So sustainability has a lot in common with these conservative economic principles. It's important for us to reiterate that, especially in these times. This is another path to debt reduction, frugality, and living within our means, which is so popular to discuss right now. Sustainability reminds us of that as well. As a former college president, I suggest that sustainability is the biggest challenge for all of education, ultimately linked to the turbulent economy, the accessibility and affordability of schooling, and how we think about the future of the planet. Nothing can be more important for higher education. Nothing can be more important for a college president than this. Our goal should be nothing less than to train a whole new generation of sustainability leaders, etc. You can read it. So this is why I became a college president, and this is why I'm working for Second Nature right now. Because I think it's so important that we get this message out to as many college presidents, to as many campuses as we possibly can. And it's important that in your work, that you're constantly making the links to the turbulent economy, to the accessibility and affordability. If we retrofit our campuses, if we save money on energy reductions, then we're going to make schooling more affordable. You talk to any college president, and the two of the things that drive the cost of schooling more than anything are energy costs and health care costs. If you had universal health care insurance, and if our energy costs were reduced, you could really make a dent in the cost of schooling. So all of this is related, and it's important to use this language because this is the language of our times. So there are all kinds of organizations that are doing this work, and they're doing this work well. I'm working for Second Nature. Second Nature has been a leader for many years, predating 2006, in the sustainability movement. But the President's climate commitment is particularly brilliant because what it does is it suggests that at this high level, we can mobilize all the skill of college presidents and other executives to make as much of a difference as we possibly can. And it's extraordinary when you think that in 5 short years, we've gotten 670 institutions to sign on to something like this. That's 670 American college and university presidents who are making this kind of commitment. Some of them are pictured there. I'm actually in there somewhere, I think. So, whoa, my phone, you're supposed to shut off your phone when you do this. But I didn't, so I better turn that ringer down. I never get messages either. All right. I love this slide. Someone at Second Nature put this together. I said, I want it. Because this, to me, represents this new converging era of partnerships. Look at all those organizations. Probably you belong to a couple of them. Maybe you work for some of them. It's pretty incredible. I'm not going to go over all of them right now. Not many of these organizations existed 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. I'll bet very few of them existed in 1969. Yes, Sierra, National Wildlife Federation. But if you think about what's happened in the last 40 years, we're always thinking about how the problems are getting worse, but also think about all of these organizations that have grown up in response to this and the partnerships that are converging now. It's a very hopeful thing. When I see the partnerships between AASHE and the ACU PCC and U.S. Green Building Council and all these organizations, it makes me I think that things are really going to happen, things are really going to change, and you are the agents of that change. Make no mistake about it, you're the ones who are making it happen. So thanks for coming. The reason why I call this the 9 elements of a sustainable culture and campus is because we have to think about this in terms of those words. Culture, which is how we think, organize, and communicate. Everything about the way we live is crucial. And campus is where many folks live, work, and play. So we want to integrate culture and campus. It makes a lot of sense. The 9 elements is simply a template for action that's relevant for any campus culture, whether it's a school, a business, a hospital, any organizational setting. I'm going to get into these 9 elements now. Now, what are the 9 elements? 9's a good number. It's divided easily, 3, 3, 3. You can remember it. I've always liked 9 as a number. And it turns out there are 9 elements of a sustainable campus. Funny thing. You'll be able to remember these 9. Now, what we do as humans is, in fact, life is chaotic. And what social science has done for centuries is it creates these ideal types. And that's all these 9 elements are. They're 9 ideal types. And they all interconnect and interact. And the reason why I lay them out this way is because so you understand that everything that you do on your campus relates to everything else that's going on your campus. So even though you may be a sustainability coordinator that's in this office, in that office, in this place, in that place, in fact, what you're doing impacts everybody all the time. And that's why you're so darn busy. Because and we, again, remember, we didn't have these jobs 5 years ago. Maybe there are a few of you who were sustainability coordinators in 2005, but not many. So you're figuring it all out for the first time. So not only are you trying to figure out what this job is all about, but how you interact with all the people on your campus. It's amazing, actually, when you think about it. It's a phenomenal case study, and you're the ones who are doing this case study. At any rate, so this is a template, and here we go. We're ready for the main talk now. Boy, these colors, I got to do something about these colors. Can you see the colors okay up there? Are they kind of faded? Yeah, that's too bad. I worked so hard to have a nice color scheme, too. So the infrastructure is going to be yellow, community is going to be orange, and learning is actually purple. These are the 3 broad categories, and there are 3 elements in each of these categories, and I'm going to show you them right now. Boy, that's tough to see. So infrastructure is energy, food, and materials, and community is governance, investment, and wellness, and learning is curriculum, aesthetics, and interpretation. You can start in any one of these boxes and go to any of the other ones and see that there's a clear relationship. Clearly, with energy, there's a relationship between energy and curriculum, energy and aesthetics. energy and interpretation. So I'm going to go over all of these with you, and as I do so, you can think about how your job relates to all of these and how this can be a template for your own success and a way to chart what it is you're doing and a way for you to chart your impact. You know, one of the things I hear all the time from folks is they don't think they're having enough impact. And well, of course, when you look at the daunting challenge that's in front of us, it's easy to think that. But in fact, you have way more impact than you know, and not as much as you'd like to have. That's just the basic reality of life. I can tell you that as a 61-year-old. You know, you're always having more influence than you think you are, but never as much as you'd like. What I'm trying to do here is to show you how much influence you already have and how much potential influence you can have. And that comes with confidence, and it comes with growth, and it comes with professional development, and it comes with cultivating your voice. And that's what I'm trying to do. That's what my whole career has been about, is cultivating voice in relationship to all of this. So energy. What is energy? Ultimately, it's the ability to do work, and it involves the transformation of matter to produce heat and electricity. And that's what it's all about. And the point of sustainable energy practices is to maximize the efficiency of those processes so as to minimize the unwanted byproducts. And we need a new energy algorithm. Now, these are some of the things we did at Unity College. When we got there, there was no place for a president to live. And it's a small residential college. There needed to be a place for a president to live. So I suggested to the board, and again, the college had no money. How about, you're giving me a housing allowance. How about if we use that housing allowance and make it the monthly payment on a platinum LEED zero carbon home? It'll be great for the campus. It'll set a new pace and model for building, and it won't cost us very much. And there'll be no energy cost. And, you know, we can't do that. Well, I heard all the excuses, and I heard all the reasons. And I sat everyone through it and explained why this is going to be so good. And we took a lot of heat from, you know, some staff and faculty. Oh, we can't do this because we need this. I said, well, if we have a building like this, first of all, it's going to help us with philanthropy. We're going to get a lot of attention for it. It's going to set the pace and standard for the campus, and it's going to help you recruit your next president. It's going to do all those things for you. So we did it, and we built a zero-carbon house, and it's still there, and the new president's living in it very happily. And it got us all kinds of attention, and it's the first, as far as I know, LEED Platinum residence in the country. I don't understand why more presidents can't do this kind of thing. So then we said, okay, if we can do it for the president, let's start doing it for the students. So we raised money from the Candida Fund to build the Terra House, which is brilliant, brilliant house. It requires virtually no heat at all because it's so well insulated. And it was built by Geologic in Belfast. It was a way for us to work with the regional community. Students who live in this, we're going to have a bunch of these eventually. I'm not there now, but eventually the campus will have a bunch of these. Students who live here have to sign a contract in which they're willing to serve as educators. Because we're all educators now. Not just the faculty, we're all educators now. And any time you do anything, people are watching you. And I don't mean to make you paranoid. I'm saying that because people are watching you because they're trying to learn how to do it themselves. So that's what the college campus needs to do, and that's what we did with the Terra House. And there are many, many other examples of this kind of thing. And so many ways to move towards zero carbon energy use. Ingenious technical innovations. We're still discovering them. That's the solar decathlon kinds of things. Renewable energy sources, rigorous conservation and retrofitting, and so on. All of these things need to be going on simultaneously. And I think what's probable, if we had several days to do a workshop right now, we'd find that each of you are doing something really innovative on your campus, and you need to tell the story of that innovation. And that's the collective power of what we're all about. So look at this. These are pictures from all over the country. Arizona State University's athletic stadium. That's University of Minnesota. Jackie Johnson. I forget the. Tony, you're there. What's the? Morris. University of Minnesota Morris. That's actually Unity. And those are in British Columbia. And that's Oberlin over there. So I should tell David to come over. These are, what I want to say here is that when you have structures like this on your campus, they're metaphorically rich. They're institutional landmarks that say we're doing something different. It says it to the regional, and they have, I mean, nuclear power plants do that too, by the way. I mean, so the way that we demonstrate how we gain energy works on people's heads, to go back to the 60s terminology. If you come to a campus and you see windmills, you're going to think, wow, interesting things are going on here. If you see solar panels, you're going to think interesting things are going on here. So it matters. This energy landscape matters because it demonstrates change to the regional community. I think it attracts students. In fact, I think all sustainability initiatives attract students, and we're gathering the data that suggests that's probably so. And so we think that sustainability helps retention for a whole range of reasons, which I'll get into later. But these are institutional icons that are very important. Uh-oh. Everybody has to eat. My wife who's sitting here said, don't try to fix it. That's good advice, honey. I won't. I might have done it. I might have tried, though. She's right. Food is, no pun intended, food is unquestionably a low-hanging fruit. And there's so much that you can do. Everybody has to eat. That's what's garbled in there. And it's true, everybody has to eat. And when we ask questions about where our food comes from and what we're eating and why we're eating it, and whether it's nourishing or not, and whether it's help supporting local farmers, all of those questions are part of it. And of course, it's related to energy and all the things in the 9 elements. So we made some big changes at Unity in relationship to food. Because food is another landscape icon. If you go to a campus and you see lots of gardens, it's like, it tells you something. It sends a message. It's, wow, people are growing their own food here. That's really an interesting thing. And you often see students working in these gardens. So we did that at Unity. Where's Unity on here? That's in the bottom right. This is University of Arizona in the upper left. I think that may be Rice. There's a whole bunch of different campuses on here. Urban campuses as well as rural campuses. We had lots of grass when I got to Unity, by the way. It's getting worse. Too bright, yeah. Yeah. I can see everyone now. It's kind of nice, but no, I think it's got to come down.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's no way we can see them.
There.
Yeah, well, maybe that's better. Whatever, we'll see. It's better. Better. It's dark. They can go to sleep if they want to, you know?
These are all preset settings.
That's not bad.
Yeah, but this is too dark.
All right. No. You should vote on your iPads.
Is that a little bit better?
No, I think we like dark. If I'm not done at 10:45 now, I'm going to keep you all after. No, just kidding.
Sorry.
No, it's really okay. At any rate, I'll talk while you mess with the lighting.
Is that right?
No, it needs to be dark.
Are dark enough?
Yeah.
No, I'll make dark.
She came from one of the other keynotes to drive you all to one of the other ones.
Yep, then I'll record what I read to you.
All right. So now to regain my train of thought. One of the things that we did at Unity, thank you so much, and for putting up with the hard time I was giving you. When I got to Unity, it was just like big lawns. And the maintenance people, I'd be there during the summer, their favorite thing to do is to drive tractors around and mow those lawns. And it said America's Environmental College. I thought, whoa, this is weird. So we started, and Jesse came to help, we just decided to start growing food everywhere. And there is food growing almost everywhere on campus now. I don't know what the latest percentage is of food that's in the cafeteria, but what we don't use in the cafeteria goes to the local food pantry. So what did we do with this? We got students involved. We sent a message to the community that we care about the community. We did something real good because there's a lot of hunger in rural Maine. Believe me, it's a very, very poor place. We got a grant for a Veggies for All program, and Jane's Trust got us that grant. And we really made a difference in the local community around issues of food. So there was a multiplier effect, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And again, every campus can be doing this, and it's not expensive to do. It's just not expensive at all. And I know this because we did it, and we don't have any money. Materials refers to the manipulation, rearrangement, and heating and cooling of matter to produce the stuff of our goods, appliances, dwellings, and tools. I mean, I like these definitions. Because what I try to do with these definitions, if you haven't noticed, is explain again how energy, food, and materials are part of human interactions with nature. They are how we connect to the planet. So we have to always remember that all the materials, everything in this room right now was cooked from the planet. Right? It was either some kind of plastic or some kind of energy process. It's all materials that's been manipulated and reformulated. So every time you buy something like that, a material, and you're involved in procurement, all of these things are relevant. How do you minimize energy use and toxic byproducts? How do you think about resilience, durability, and recyclability? Whether it's green cleaning materials or recycled carpets, every single thing that we use on a college campus has been rearranged and transformed from the natural world. And we forget that so easily for all kinds of reasons. Sustainability initiatives should remind us of that. So you can do some pretty cool things with materials. That's the inside of the Unity House where we lived on the bottom and on the bottom right, and that's all recycled materials. Everything in there is recycled material. On the upper right, if you can see that, is Plenty Fisk, who's got this Center for Maximal Sustainable Living in Austin, Texas. That place is unbelievable. It looks like a madman's Tinker Toy set. But what he's doing is he's showing with really inexpensive materials how you can maximize sustainability initiatives in terms of water, energy, and food. And there are all kinds of other examples of how you do this. But any of you who are working with procurement and life cycle accounting, you know what I'm talking about. So those are the infrastructure 3 elements: energy, food, and materials. Now we're going to move on to the community 3 elements, and then the learning, and then we're done. Okay, community. There you go. I'm not going to stay there because you can't see it. Governance is the one that I spent the most time with and feel like I developed a relative amount of expertise. By the way, unless you go to management school, you learn this stuff on the job. So many of you as sustainability coordinators, maybe you've taken a management course in your life or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, you have major management considerations now, and you probably haven't received a heck of a lot of training, so you're learning on the ground. So we need to do more about organizational leadership and sustainability coordinators, for sure. So governance includes the role of organizational culture, the alignment between mission, governance, and curriculum, job descriptions, performance. You can see all these things up here. Here's some of the things we did at Unity. I'll tell you a little story. I was there maybe a month or two, and there was some group that was supposed to advise the president, and which I later canned and kind of just changed. That's what you got to do. And I got in there and I said, how about if we put sustainability initiatives into people's job descriptions? And they said, no, we can't do that. And they came up with all these excuses. I love excuses in life. Because, you always ask, well, what's behind this excuse? Insecurity, lack of resources, aversion to change and risk. That's what I always ask. Whenever you hear an excuse, you should ask, well, and when you give an excuse, too, what's really behind your excuse? Right? Just a little self-help tip. Because you find out where your weaknesses are when you think about what your excuses are. So that was the excuse. So I kind of jokingly got up, walked out of the room, and said, this can't be, it says America's Environmental College. Clearly, this is the wrong place. Then I came back a few minutes later, and we started working through the issues. And now we do this. So the residence hall guy has to, each year, he has to report to the Dean of Student Life and say what he's done in terms of new initiatives for sustainability. Everyone throughout the system is doing this now. After 3 years, it was second nature. No pun intended. It just, well, I guess pun intended. After 3 years, it was second nature. Things would happen on campus, and I'm really not a control freak, in spite of the fact that I like my slides to look better. I'm not a control freak. I like to delegate, let people do their work, and come to me if they have questions, they need help, or they're doing something that's really so significant that I better know about it. Other than that, go do it. And after 3 years, I found that sustainability initiatives were coming from corners of campus, and this is a small college, and I had no idea that they were even going on because it was so built into the culture of the college. It mattered. Board of trustees. When I first got there, they were all very conservative people. It turned, climate change, I mean, listen to Fox News. But they loved the frugality. So we invented the term real-time frugal sustainability. Real time, we do it right here, right now. We don't know, we can't pay for offsets. Frugal, we have a lot of lower middle and middle class students who come to Unity, and it's a very poor community, so people who come here need to see things that they can do in their own homes. and we're going to save money for the campus. The board loved it, and they ultimately loved the Unity House when they heard that the energy bill was zero. So we used that approach, and it made a huge difference. And after time, they began to understand that, well, there are other considerations and other circumstances here as well. So you have to be very, very strategic with this work. And governance is about that kind of strategy. But it reached the point where the Board of Trustees became so supportive and so proud of everything that we're doing that they were insistent that the next president hired at Unity College would embody this ethos. And so that's really a wonderful thing. And the new president, Stephen Mulkey, does embody this ethos, and that's just great. And I think what's going to happen now at campuses around the country is, for the most part, when the presidents have done this and they've been successful, they will build it in so the Board of Trustees will be looking at someone who will do a similar kind of thing. It's not always the case, but often it is. So there's a tremendous amount that you can do as an executive, and governance is a crucial part of that. And I can go on and on talking about this, but we got to move on. But here are a few things that I think you might find helpful. For me, the challenge of being a college president, because I never thought I'd be one, it was almost like a Zen challenge of sorts, and a Zen leadership challenge, because I had to balance these three seemingly diametrically opposed qualities: boldness and tenderness, for one. As a leader, you need to be tender in the sense that you need to hear what people are saying. You need to understand where they're coming from, because you can't push people faster than they're capable of being pushed. Although there's something I'm sure in the I Ching about this. You just can't push them faster. In all the great books of wisdom. I'm sure I read it in the Torah sometime in youth, You only can go the right pace. But you got to make changes too, and you got to be bold about them. So how do you balance that? If you're having trouble with that, welcome to the world. It's just the way it is. But you do find that middle path. You do find it. And so one of the things I would say on campus is, we're doing well, but we're not doing good enough. We're moving forward. I appreciate your work. I like how we're going, but we got to do better. And you have to find what doing better means without burning people out. Boldness and tenderness. You can apply that to your own lives and your own work right now. Urgency and patience. I'm a competitor. I play hoops. I want to win. And I want our college. I wanted Unity to win. I wanted us to do better in College Atlantic and Green Mountain and Warren Wilson. We're all in it together and we're partners. I get that. Of course we are. But there was a part of me as a college president who wanted us to be the best of these small colleges. And I also felt the urgency of the climate change challenge too. So I tried to put those things together. How does Unity excel? Unity excels by being an exemplary sustainability college. Yet, on the other hand, I would have driven myself absolutely crazy, and my wife can tell you I did at times, because things weren't going as fast as I wanted them to. So the urgency-patience issue is big, and I imagine that you're all facing that too. And you have to find your own formula for your temperament, for the people who supervise you, and for whoever your clients are. And finally, innovation and tradition. I found that at Unity, and I think at other campuses, love their traditions. You come to this place and they just have traditions galore, that about this building or this person or that person. You have to learn them all, and you have to respect them. If you want to kind of get rid of them all, people think you're nuts. But a lot of those traditions aren't healthy, and they're not sustainable. So somehow you have to find a way of respecting and upholding tradition and being innovative at the same time. Two caveats: sustainability, and I can't emphasize this enough, and I know how hard this is for some folks. It's not the political philosophy of an esoteric green politics. It's beyond traditional left-right categories, and it embodies elements, as I indicated previously, of traditional conservative and progressive political approaches. Finally, decisions related to governance are complex and controversial, and they are not always consensus-driven. You do everything you can to build consensus, but there are times when you just have to make a decision, and you do. And I think that's often when leadership either fails or succeeds. And I know that you're probably often frustrated by that. So when your supervisor or your president makes a really good decision, let him or her know. By the way, another thing I used to do as president, and I can help you with this now as the director of the Presidential Fellows Program, is I used to bring my sustainability folks, Jesse and all the students, to board meetings. And I would show off their work. Because the reason why I did that is because it made the trustees proud of what we were doing. And they love meeting these people because they're great people. So one of the things I decided I can do for any of you is I can send a note to your president, come up to me afterwards, and say I met you here at this conference, and that you're doing tremendous work and you're representing your college really well. So, you know, there are all those kinds of things that can make a real difference. You got to think about them, because it's about having influence, and it's about having access to power, and it's about using your leverage to the maximum. Okay. Investment. Where capital goes. That's what investment is. Every college community is a mini investment laboratory of sorts. Every college campus has a significant impact on the surrounding community. Colleges are dynamic economic multipliers. Their investment decisions have profound ramifications. You could look at all of these questions. But by way of example, if Arizona State makes a procurement decision, they can make or break a local business. In fact, they can make or break a regional business. Now, that's a big account. That's a really, really big account. And you look at a school like that and the partnerships it creates in Arizona, and suddenly you can transform the city of Phoenix. Okay, that's a big system scale, and they're doing it there. That's why I point out ASU, because that's a tough challenge that President Michael Crow's got for himself with that legislature and everything else. But he's bold. He's moving forward. At little old Unity and some of these other little colleges, if we decide to buy organic beef from a local farmer, that can make or break that local farmer. It really can. And we saw ourselves helping out some of these struggling farmers by virtue of incorporating them in a cafeteria or whatever else it might be. By the way, I want to say this, and just because I point these things out doesn't mean that we had all the right answers at Unity or any of these schools have the right answers. We make a lot of mistakes. And that's part of it. You can't be afraid to make a mistake. As long as you're constantly aware of the possibility of being wrong. A wonderful new book, by the way. You should check it out, Being Wrong. Because all of the anxiety that surrounds being wrong. But how else do you learn? As long as you're able to self-correct and you're monitoring yourself at a regular basis. There are a lot of things at Unity we didn't do as well as we could have, and we're always learning. We're all of us learning together. That's why we need conferences like this. Ultimately, that's why we have a conference, so people can share their learning. And investment's the same way. We talk together about how can we invest whatever we have here and make it work. I got to tell you right now about the other consulting work I'm doing, which is the $1 Billion Green Challenge. Mark Orlowski's got a brilliant idea. And that is, let's raise $1 billion in revolving student funds so we can invest at our campuses. You're going to get more returns by that kind of investment in energy retrofitting or whatever else you may be doing, energy innovations, than you are from the stock market right now. Right? So these are the kinds of things we need to be aware of and learn, and we're all learning about it. We're all learning about it. But this $1 Billion Green Challenge is a tremendous idea, and you should, try to get involved. It's a great way. Huh?
Mark's back here.
Oh, Mark's here? All right, good. So even at a place like Unity, $100,000 out of a budget of $10 million matters a lot. There's a lot we can do with that kind of thing. So let's make it work. All right, wellness. How many sustainability coordinators are burnt out all the time? Right? What's that all about? It doesn't make sense. We forget the whole purpose of this. As Tony Cortese reminds me all the time, it's about human life. It's about human well-being. So you've got to live a good life. And we have to find ways of doing this together. Here's the magic, I think. When you're growing food on campus, that's part of a good life. You could be Jesse all the time. He'd be complaining to me about it, and I'd say, well, how come you're doing this and you're not doing the climate action plan? But we joke around a lot. He'd be out in the field a lot with the students, helping with the gardens. And I know that actually did improve your quality of life, Jesse, doing that. So we have the opportunity to do this kind of thing, and it's really important. I used to take bike rides with my senior staff every day, pretty much April through October. And that sent a message to the whole community. We reduced our health insurance costs at Unity College because we had a big wellness program going on there. So we reduced our health insurance costs that way. And, you got to set a model. We set a model because we lived in the Unity house and because I was in reasonably good shape. Is stress impacting performance of students, faculty, and staff? Does the college promote healthy living? Is wellness integrated and the students as well? It would break my heart to see students smoking. We tried to ban smoking, but that was a bad decision. I mean, talk about spontaneous origination of student movements. Wow. It was a tough call, too, because there's some real virtues to doing that. But then, you know, every last, 18-year-old about personal rights and all of that kind of thing. It was a very interesting discussion, but I decided not to spend my political capital there. So we figured out, we actually worked it out, so we figured out you can only smoke in these places and all that kind of thing, but it's all connected. You're smoking, health insurance costs are going to go up. Your tuition's going to go up. The whole country is going to have a budget problem. So, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. Well, I'm an educator ultimately, and when I was, in my kind of dark hour about when I had accepted the presidency and I was kind of roaming around the house saying to my wife, what the heck have I done? I went to see a few college presidents. And I went to see the president of Keene State College, Helen Giles G. Wonderful African-American woman who did a phenomenal job there. And I said, well, why should I do this? She said, it's the best chance you'll ever have to be an educator. She knew exactly what to say to me. And I said, wow, that's amazing, because I am an educator. I'm not a higher ed administrator, I'm an educator. So that's the way I looked at my position. So learning has got 3 of the 9 elements here. And that's what AASHE is. It's all about learning. Curriculum essentially is what you know and how you think is always a reflection of how you live. And I think the best sustainability curriculum, you all know this anyway, I'm just telling you what you know so you know it more. That's called reiteration, is one that provides the hands-on experience of living, implementing, and designing a sustainable campus. My wife helped me with this one because I'm a very abstract thinker. If you live in a dorm where you're practicing sustainability, you're going to learn a lot more than you are by studying in text. You just are. And it's just about habits. There are so many good and bad habits that are just the behaviors of daily practice. So it's so important that our students live in ways, and our campuses live in ways that set the tone for the future, because so many good and bad habits are learned between these ages of 18 and 21. I don't know about you, but I feel that that's when I was most brilliant. I really do. All these years later, the songs I wrote, the ideas I had, I just haven't been able to get back there. I have more experience and more wisdom, but our minds are just taking so much in at that age. They really are. And so that's why it's so important to have these demonstrations of how to live on campus. So, but you know all that. And there are other more theoretical questions. Is climate change and sustainability education a core component of the curriculum? Are students involved in campus-wide master planning? We did that too. We did a lot of master planning. I didn't do master planning because I thought I was going to come up with some great new way to do it. I did it because I wanted to get the students involved. I wanted to multiply the stakeholders who cared about the future of the institution. We did a campus master plan when I first got there, and all these people said, well, we've already done this. So I said, well, I play guitar, and I'm not going to play a song one time and say I'm done. I'm going to practice it over and over again until I get it right. Plus, you've never done it with me. So we need to all do it together so we understand what we're thinking about. And you have to get students involved in everything that's happening on campus. Everything. On search committees, right? And you need to be involved. I made sure Jesse was on this budget committee. I made sure he was doing some teaching. Jesse taught a STARS class. One of the problems with STARS is that who the heck's going to do it? Same thing with climate action planning. So we would teach classes to get the students mobilized. Not only do they help with our workforce issues, but they also then have better job possibilities because they'll be the new sustainability coordinators of the future, and they'll know how to do these kinds of things because they practiced them when they were on campus. Service learning is huge, major national movement. I love the campus compacts. I'm on the board of the main campus compact. They are ways of bringing sustainability initiatives into the community. So much of higher education right now is about access and affordability and accountability. When you have service learning projects that emphasize sustainability and they're happening in your community, you can make a huge difference. I'm sure you all know this already too, but don't forget it. Because, and it's a great thing that we were visiting a campus, Tony and I at some point, I won't say which, And we found out the president wasn't quite as excited about sustainability, but was really into service and civic participation. Okay, good. We'll use that lever. You know, that's what you got to do. Find out whatever your supervisors or presidents are interested in and go there. Finally, aesthetics. We're almost finished here and we can do questions. I have no idea what time it is and whether I'm on or not, but 10:16. So, all right. This is another low-hanging fruit, by the way. And let me get into some theoretical material here for a moment. I wrote a book that you can actually buy here. I didn't mean to plug it, but why not? It's called Bringing the Biosphere Home. And it's out there. I saw it. And the idea of bringing the biosphere home, and this is where I come from, too. The idea was I went to a National Academy of Sciences conference on biodiversity in the mid-1990s, and I was devastated by what I heard there in terms of the 6th mega extinction and the biodiversity challenges. And I realized as I was driving home that I couldn't comprehend the ecological or existential or spiritual challenge of this problem. I just couldn't comprehend it. So I did an investigation on how I could better understand and do something about it. So on the one hand, there was the ecological challenge. And my theory was that as you grow your understanding of local natural history, you're more able to see the big picture. You start seeing that things move back and forth, for example. The hermit warbler that migrates comes back pretty much the same, and then you can trace the changes. And there was an existential challenge, and that's where I went to my Jewish roots. There's a great Jewish philosopher, Abraham Joshua Heschel. And I asked the question, he had to deal with the killing of 6 million Jews. Is that relevant to the 6th mega extinction? How did he still have faith in the human condition after witnessing that in the late 30s and early 40s? And can I learn from something like that? So I think that part of what we're dealing with here is you're reminding people, when you remind people of the planetary challenge, you're reminding them of this awesome and daunting issue, really the meaning of human life. So art is one of the great ways to cut through all of that. And the other aspect of this is because for so long, the environmental message and challenge has been Cassandra-like. I mean, poor Bill McKibben, you know, just getting all this bad news out there. But it's got to be celebratory, too, because we're talking about a great way to live. We really are. And that's what I love about this new kind of morphing of environment into sustainability, because it's really fundamentally about how we live every single day. And art is an amazing way to celebrate it. So for me, art is at the core of understanding sustainability, biodiversity, and climate change, and it's a perceptual challenge about scale in the biosphere. That's what most people don't get. They don't get the scale thing. They don't understand the relationship between right now and tomorrow and the past, the far distant past and the far distant future. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And so you can use courses and you can teach about the geological time scale and all of these things, continents moving around and smacking into each other. But the fact is, art gets us there quickly. So art projects use imagination to convey scale and are a bridge to scientific understanding. They catalyze emotional responses to the planetary challenge. I think art provides a deeper cognitive advantage, pure and simple. So are there vivid, imaginative, and evocative campus exhibits, art projects, and installations that support sustainability initiatives on your campus? It's cheap to do. We had, with a small grant, I think it was under $20,000, something like that, we held a day at Unity where we brought sustainability coordinators and artists together, and scientists, and basically set them loose on campus and say, okay, if you're going to use art to demonstrate sustainability and environmental, ecological concepts on this campus, how are you going to do it? And we got all these ideas, and now if you go to Unity, art projects come up all the time. And there are a lot of buildings there that can use it. And I said to the art, it's like, it's a small college, there's one art person, maybe two. And I said, Ben, you have free license to do any art project, public art project you want on this campus. Just check with facilities. And so there was free license. And we made the campus so much more interesting and hip, by the way, because all these things were going on. Now, I know you can't do it at certain colleges because of the ivy. But I encourage you to do this, and it makes a big difference. So here are some ideas. You can read them. And eventually, I'm turning this into a book, and so you can put it there. Here's some ways of doing it. This is a whole range of different campuses around the country. And just a few little ideas that I globbed off the internet. And I think there's a unity thing in here, too. All right, final one is interpretation, making sense of it all. Every sustainability project, I know this is a green conference center. And I'm really happy that we're in a green conference center. I think Pittsburgh's awesome, by the way. It's the most amazing city I've never seen. This, but I would never know this is a green conference center unless somebody told me. A major educational possibility has been lost here. Because there are a lot of people who use this conference center and aren't from AASHE. And they may be told green conference center, say, oh, great, that's really great. But what the heck does that mean? So there should be interpretation exhibits everywhere throughout this place saying why and how it happened. Otherwise, you lose the opportunity. So I'm saying this to you on your campuses. Now, I know there are sometimes reasons why you can't do it. But I have been in way more LEED certified buildings that have no interpretation at all, other than maybe a little plaque in the corner, than those that do. So that's a very important possibility for you. And I think the whole campus ought to be a sustainability learning laboratory. I want to do this at Unity, but I decided to leave, and maybe you guys can do it. I want to hand out a map when you come to campus that points out all the different sustainability initiatives that are going on campus. And you can do this anywhere, right? So hide nothing, by the way. Measure, keep records, share information in compelling ways. And I think every dorm should be doing energy monitoring. We did it at the Unity House. I mean, I know these things are expensive, but over time they're going to become cheaper and cheaper, and there are ways that you can get it done. If there's a will, there's a way, as my mother used to say. A whole bunch of questions attached to all of that. The campus is a story. The campus is a narrative. It's an icon. It's a metaphor. It's very compelling, a campus. We went to Chatham yesterday, and that place is just stunning. I mean, you just want to kind of, you know, lie down and roll on the leaves there. It's really a beautiful place. And it's a story. It gave me a wonderful impression. Every campus, is, whether you're an urban campus, whether you're a resource-poor campus or one that's very wealthy, they have stories. Some go back several hundred years. So how does the story of sustainability, and they're geographically based. The story of, let's say, a campus in Arizona is very different than the story of a campus in Maine or anywhere else. But they're located in places, and I think we have great opportunities to tell the sustainability narrative as a story of our campus in this place, in this geography, in this landscape, in geological space and time. You make it as big as you want. And so here are some examples. We have the Jimmy Carter solar panels. We have the Jimmy Carter solar panels at Unity College, and wow, that became a big story for us. So although advancement historically at Unity hasn't done very well, there was one advancement person way, way back who Carter had solar panels on the White House. Reagan decided to take them down. We won't recreate that story. But somebody at Unity said, hey, let's go get them. So they did. And they put them all, they put them all in the cafeteria there. You can see them, I think. And they're not operating on the cafeteria, although some of them can still be made to operate. So McKibben, when he was doing his Put Solar on It campaign, gave us a call and said, hey, can we have one of those? Because we realized a lot of people want these now. You know, they're our most valuable asset. Our most valuable non-intellectual asset are the Jimmy Carter solar panels. So talk about a story, right? So these Swiss filmmakers came and made a movie called The Road Not Taken, which Unity's prominently featured in. And McKibben came and I said, of course you can have one, but here's the only caveat. On your solar road trip to Washington, you take Jesse and you take several of our students. Because I want them to get this whole experience and I want them to tell the Unity story. And we did, and it was a phenomenal experience for the students. It was great for our college. We got tremendous publicity from it. And it was a narrative, a sustainability story narrative that came from the Jimmy Carter solar panels. There are dozens of examples of this kind of thing, and that's why you got to get your PR people. There aren't many PR people here at AASHE, right? We got to do workshop, Tony, for PR people. I mean, and get them to be telling these stories too, because it makes a huge difference and it brings a lot of great attention to the campus. Okay, now it's your turn. This is my narrative. As a sustainability explorer, a former college president, a writer, a Second Nature presidential fellow, a consultant for the $1 Billion Green Challenge. It's my story. We started with the Whole Earth Catalog. I could go further back even, but I won't. And what is your narrative? And how will you be a change agent? What catalog of ideas and possibilities will you initiate? What will your voice be? And how will you cultivate the voices of the people you work with, which might be the single most important thing you can do as a working professional? When you come up with a great idea and you've accomplished something, tell your story. It's not bragging. People want to know your story. You have to make that part of your awareness. And you can do it in such a way that it's not irritating. You can do it in such a way that's but you must be telling your story to everyone. And tell it to us. Tell it to me. Send me a note. Let us know what you're up to. Thanks very much. Questions? Comments? Tomatoes? Yeah.
Do you do any, well, my name is Ludovic Lemaitre, I'm from Randolph College in Virginia, and we talked a little bit yesterday, and you said that you are willing sometimes to come to college campuses and give lectures and talk directly to the president on a one-on-one conversation. So do you do that often? So I'm just enough.
Yes, thank you. It's almost like a big softball, and yeah, he wanted to know if I will come to college campuses and do this talk. So it's like a nice big softball, wham, over the right field fence. Absolutely. I love doing this kind of thing, and I love doing it not only because I believe so passionately in these ideas, but I learn so much when I go to these campuses. And I also will be representing Second Nature, the $1 Billion Green Challenge, so all of those important new tools and ideas are things I can discuss with your senior staff. And I also can bring people with me. We can bring, folks from the $1 Billion Green Challenge or Second Nature with me to do these kinds of things. So if you're interested in having a bunch of folks come and spend a day giving a talk like this, working with senior staff, we can do that at cost, but at a reasonable one. So please do get in touch with me. And if you're interested, just give me your card afterwards. And in general, if you'd like a copy of the narrative of this, I can give that to you, so you can give me your card about that too. Thanks for the question. Other questions, thoughts? Maybe a little more, less of a softball even. Yes?
Pardon me, I teach for a community college in Maryland, and it strikes me that the support communities that help contribute to our college, we benefit greatly by hearing some version of this. Maybe not with the same academic spin, but one of the challenges we face is trying to gently push sustainability initiatives off campus into a fairly recalcitrant set of local populations.
Yeah, the question I think in essence was that this gentleman, and what's your name?
Craig Farley.
Craig?
Farley.
Farley, and where are you?
Chesapeake College.
Oh.
Western Shore.
Okay. Did we talk the other day?
Yes, we talked yesterday.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. Because we've been trying to work with Chesapeake College. The question essentially was, how can community colleges get more involved with their local communities in ways that aren't necessarily academic, in ways that help them understand the potential economic benefits of this kind of thing? And I think it's a wonderful question, especially now because workforce development is such a crucial part of what our whole nation's thinking about. And I think it has to be at the forefront of the sustainability agenda. The whole notion of green jobs has become buried in its own stereotype in a way, right? So I think we have to think about what good work means and what good work means in the community. And I think as a sustainability person at Chesapeake College, you can lead that conversation. What does good work mean for this region? And when people will tell you what good work is, it's more than just making money, although that's important. But there are certain quality of life issues attached to good work that will make a difference. So that's one suggestion. If you get out in the community and you ask people these kinds of questions, they'll tell you what's on their minds. And very often, they're very close to what we're thinking about, because we're all thinking about quality of life, quality of working life, quality of community life. But if you use certain words like environment or sustainability, you know, suddenly, because essentially of the right-wing propaganda machine, I'm sorry if I've offended anybody, essentially because of the right-wing propaganda machine, you know, it's, oh my goodness, sustainability, or ecology. But it's really about quality of life. Yeah. Okay. Yes. No, you already asked. It was good, but someone else. Yes.
I'm Laura Fieselman from Meredith College in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I want to know, how did Unity College decide to hire you? Were they already an environmental place? Why did they choose you with this super agenda over everyone else?
Right. This is Laura from Meredith College, and she wanted to know why Unity hired me. It is an environmental college, but it was not really making its mark in sustainability. And I don't think that's what they had in mind when they hired me. I think they were just looking for someone who made sense and was kind of eloquent and likable. I don't want to brag, but... And they, you know, I told them what I cared about. I actually, when I wrote my application letter, I said I wrote what I cared about in that letter. And it was less than the language of sustainability then, because I was still in this place-based, you know, environmental thing, which I still also believe in. But I really wrote a very strong letter about my values and what I cared about. And I figured if they like this letter, then this might be the right place, and if they don't, then who cares? And they did like the letter. So, you know, I'm sure it's a somewhat different kind of situation. Every institution is looking for something different. Often institutions are looking for someone very different than they had before, especially if that person didn't work out. But I don't know, it just happened. You just never know why you wind up in certain places and not in others. I do think now that for any position I would look at, and I'm not looking, or for any positions you are looking at, you have to make it very clear that this is what's important to you, and this is what's interesting to you. And I think you also need to do the best you can to negotiate exactly how you work. We were talking about this at the Implementation Liaison workshop, and also yesterday at the Straight to the Top workshop we were doing. Your job descriptions are changing so rapidly because of reporting requirements, issues of access and accountability, that it can transform in 12 months or 24 months. So you need to constantly be working with whoever supervises you to make sure that maybe even on a 6-month basis, or certainly on an annual basis, that you're redefining your job description so that that person knows how to support you. I know this is not what you asked me, but that's what often happens. And what kind of resources that you need, and also that they understand the rigor of your job, and that there are reporting requirements for the ACU-PCC, also for STARS, and now the $1 Billion Green Challenge, that are a very important part of your job. So you constantly have to be in discussion with your supervisors about all these things. So I know that's not what you originally asked, but you know, who knows why anyone ever hires anybody? You know? I mean, really. I don't mean to sound so flippant, but it just worked out. And you know, I'll tell you what else. First thing that happened when I became president, Tony Cortese and I go way back. He's sitting here. And you know, I learned about the president's climate commitment. And I called Tony and said, Tony, this is really important to me. It's really important to Unity. And I really want to be on the steering committee because I can make such a statement for this college. And Tony said, well, we already have somebody from a small college. I said, I don't care. And of course, he understood. And it's just, I'm telling that story as an example of why it's so important to, you know, to do what you think is right for your institution. Because I knew that after a couple of years, it would really bring good things to the place. So I know you didn't ask me that, but yes, yeah.
Jay Roberts from Earlham College. You talked about those three main areas: infrastructure, community, and learning. And I realize they're nested and interactive, but if you had a place to start and you could only choose one of those three, where would you start on college?
Okay, great question. You're from Earlham College. I forget what you said your name is?
Jay.
Jay from Earlham College. Wondered if there's just one place you could start. realizing that they're all nested and fully interdependent, where would you start? I think there are two ways to answer that question. One, what is your expertise? Because you want to start in the place where you're most, I'll tell you, when I write this book, I'm going to start with the chapter that I'm most comfortable in, and that's governance. So I want to be successful with one chapter. I know from writing previous books that you start with the one that you know that you can be successful with. So I would say the same thing to you about this. If there's one area where you really feel like you know a lot and you have expertise, that's a clue or a key. The second is, what's the maximum leverage point for your institution? Where would your actions make the most difference so you can do more later? And there's a place in between your expertise and the maximum leverage point, which is you and your institution, and that's where I think you should start. Okay? Yes?
I'm Mike with Yeshiva University in New York. For those who don't know, Yeshiva simply means school in Hebrew. The office that I direct has two people. I have an engineering background, and the other is a younger person shortly out of school, who's actually incidentally going to graduate school at Columbia now at the Earth Center. She just started this month. My question to you is this. Being that we lack some of the leadership skills and training that we need, where would you recommend that we acquire or pursue some type of leadership training classes? Right.
Okay. So the question is, Mike, you said, right? I'm sorry. Yeah, is from Yeshiva, and that's a small staff, and he's wondering about how to gain some of the expertise, places to go, training to get, which is a question we're all asking a lot of. There are all kinds of webinars available now. I know that Second Nature runs them. I know that, I'm sure that, Mark, we're going to run them with $1 Billion Green Challenge. AASHE has them. There really are lots of online learning venues that are good. Online learning, you know, it has its strengths and weaknesses, but what's good about it is it's efficient, you can schedule it on your time, you don't necessarily have to travel anywhere, and you can make it happen. I think there's a tremendous need for organizational leadership and sustainability, for more technical expertise, and for 1 week long types of training for people like yourself who could come in and get the finance, some of the technical, and some of the leadership all in one place as oriented. And we're working on putting something like that together. But in the meantime, I think if you search some of those organizations I mentioned, there's much that you can do. And there's lots that start, you know, I use the word emergent property a lot. And by that I simply mean that there are many things going on that combine together and make something completely unanticipated. But a lot of the sustainability movement's in emergent property. So there are things happening, I'm sure, in the New York City metropolitan area that are going on at campuses that are really kind of quite good. And if you kind of explore it around and talk to some of the other regional sustainability folks, or your equivalents in terms of your job in the New York City metropolitan area, there might be some things that people are already doing. So, yes?
I think, isn't there something called the Center for Conservation Leadership? Am I calling it the right thing? It's based in Bozeman?
That could be. I mean, there are all of these different, there are many of these that are, but I think there's a need for what Mike is suggesting, and there needs to be more of it. I saw a hand up there, yes.
Hi, I'm Rebecca from Colby University. I'm a student. I know that you mentioned like one of the big problems are people who are skeptic about the science itself, but what would you say, like, have you come across people that aren't skeptic of the science? But say a lot of us at Colgate are econ majors, and some of my friends go the route that it's all about developing more, spending more money, and technology will save all. And obviously that's a very flawed approach. Have you encountered that? What do you say to that?
Right. That's Rebecca from Colgate, and she wonders how you respond to people who might even agree with the science of climate change, the statured, you know, consensual science, but still challenge you because they feel like there are obvious economic or technological solutions. Well, there are lots of ways of going about that, and of course it's always different. You know, everyone's going to have a different approach that they're taking to this. But generally speaking, we need their wisdom. I mean, that's why I would just turn it back. We need economists to come up with the best ways possible of integrating income, jobs, workforce, and climate action planning. So that's one. And we need technological solutions. I mean, that's many people, many folks, Stuart Brand among them, who did the original Whole Earth catalog, is of the mind now that we need to do massive geoengineering. I'm not advocating that, but we need to start opening ourselves up to a whole range of technological solutions, because windmills alone won't do it. They just won't. So we got, you know, you get out and you go to China. I've been to China and Cambodia in the last year and a half, and you just see the massive development that's going on in these places, or the youthfulness of the population in a place like China, Cambodia that is. And you realize that I come back to northern New England and I feel like I'm in a refugia, some forgotten place. Life's not like it is at Colgate or in southwest New Hampshire where I live now. So we need big systems thinking from economists and folks who study technology and engineering to solve a lot of these problems. And I would just try to bring them along with you, if possible. Yeah. And you know, it's a great question. I'm sorry, it's such a great question, because we confront this all the time. It's like, what happens when you go home at Thanksgiving and you're sitting around the table and you've got the uncle who's just a bit of a jerk and is trying to yank your chain around all these kinds of issues? And how many of you have experienced that? Right? So what do you say to that person? Well, first of all, you have to decide whether or not it's even worth it. I mean, you do. Cut your losses and go on to the next person. And with some people, it's just not worth it, because you're not going to convince them and they're just going to waste your time. But then there are people who are reasonable people who have a different point of view than you do. So then you can have a really good conversation. And you have to find the common ground. And I'm telling you this because it's just the key to good education, and it's the key to consensual decision making and getting to yes and all that stuff. You've got to find it as best as you can, and that's a challenge for all of us. Yes?
So you mentioned a couple of books, and I've written them down, and you're an author, and so what do you think, and this goes into his question, what do you think are some of the seminal books that have influenced you that we should be picking up?
You should probably just write me a note, and I'll do my best I can, because there are so many great works out there.
I know, that's why I need recommendations.
Yeah. So oh, God, okay. Her question was, are there certain seminal works that you've read and such, or authors? There are so many things that have influenced me, and really, there are. So I'm serious, write to me, tell me more about your interests, and I'll give you a reading list of sorts. But it's hard, because I hate that kind of, what are the 10 best books you've ever read? And yeah, I can't do that, because there are so many good ones. And I think what you need to do, and part of the learning process, and I'm happy to make the recommendations. I'm not trying to squeeze my way out of this, but I do think it's something, and I'm happy to talk with you separately or on email. But part of the learning process is figuring that out for yourself and learning how to search through different sources and finding out, well, what are the things that you're really interested in? What are the areas where you feel you need to know more about? I find, for example, that I can't know enough climate change science. I can't know enough ecology. Those are things that I'm interested in, and I find that the more I learn about, I find them very interesting to learn about and to read about. But it may be different for you. I love to read biographies of African-American baseball players from the late 1940s and early 1950s. And why? Because they were on the front end of the civil rights movement, and they had to put up with things that were just unbelievable. And they tell me about what America was like when I was born, and I get great inspiration for social change from reading their experiences. Now, they'd be completely irrelevant to you, right? So that's why I need to know what you're interested in to move forward. But there's so many great sources. Use your intuition, use your common sense, and you can find them. But I'll recommend some things to you for sure, starting with my own books. No. Okay.
Suggestion?
Yeah, yeah.
That brings a great point. I was given the hook in order to hook Mitch. And he's actually going to be signing his book downstairs immediately following.
I am?
That's what Judy said.
All right.
So you can join him down below in the bookstore if you'd like to do that. And of course, you should be reminded that there are other sessions. You can consult times for your sessions in your schedule coming up at 11. I'm not sure where, they're all right up here. So.
I'm going to stick around for a while. And also, some of my colleagues, Mark Orlaski's here, $1 Billion Green Challenge, if you have questions about that for your campus. Tony Cortese is here if you have questions about the President's climate commitment. Any of those things, we're here. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Give me your cards. I'll send you some materials, and I'm happy to correspond with you, and very happy to come visit your campus and do something. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks.
I did. It's a longer discussion, and I did it because I was a freshman, and I worked with all life, and I said, what's the best way to do it? And so I think you have to, you have to find the vice president.